Hi everyone, and welcome back for episode 3 of our podcast. So if you haven't seen weeks 1 and 2, they should be available somewhere kind of on your school's learning platform. But if you did miss those, you can just give us an email as well, and we can send those across to you. So each week we do a competition, and last week we asked for people to send in their future goals, and we got loads of entries, which was really great to see. So we had a nice time kind of going through everyone's goals for the future. So the winner of that competition will have been notified, and they will win a £10 Amazon voucher. So if you're interested in participating in the competition this week, all of the details for that will be at the end of the video. So this week's podcast then is discussing virtual events and how to make the most of virtual events, and kind of maybe the differences between an in-person event and a virtual one. We're also going to share some of our own top tips, as well as answering the most Googled questions about virtual events at the end. So I think to kind of start with, and just to give a little bit of context, I think maybe myself and Danielle will go through our own experiences when we left kind of year 11 and we were thinking about where we were going to go on to and what we were going to do. So I don't know if you'd like to start, Danielle?
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, I always stress how important open nights are. Even if they are sort of virtual at the moment, they are really important. I know when I left year 11, as mentioned sort of last week, I wasn't certain what route I wanted to go down, but visiting a college and being able to ask all the questions that I had and even meet the staff and see facilities and things was really useful. And so I would definitely say, even if you can get on virtual open night, there should be virtual tours that can show you around facilities. You'll be able to speak to staff just as you can actually in person as well. And it's just a really good chance to get a bit more of an idea about the courses and things. I think obviously you get a lot of information on the website, but speaking to someone's totally different, isn't it? And I think sort of after that as well, even when I was deciding on a university, I know we mentioned last week when we were sort of deciding where I wanted to go, and I had originally thought about going to Manchester. In my head, I always imagined like Manchester Met would be right in the centre where all the shops are and all like the sort of nightlife, all of that. And when I went to the open day, I remember my dad drove us down. It took about 4 hours. We got there and it was nowhere near the centre. It was in this little place called Crewe. There was like an Asda in the next home or something. And these like not great halls, and when I got there it was just the complete opposite of what I imagined it would be like to study there. And on the drive home I knew it wasn't for me, much to my dad's disappointment when his whole weekend had been taken up by this trip to Manchester. But that was really important because I think now, I mean, I would have studied for like 3 years in the middle of absolutely nowhere. So yeah, definitely go. Obviously, if you can go in person, that's amazing. Get an idea of the area where you'll be studying. But if not, I think the virtual open nights and things at the moment are doing sort of the same job, really, seeing facilities and speaking to staff. What about you?
Yeah, I think I had a similar experience. So I'm from a really small town, and there were kind of only 2 options of sixth form that you would go to. I decided that I wanted to do A levels. So there were only 2 choices for me, really. So going to the open night was like crucial, because it was that kind of big decision. A lot of my friends had decided they were going to one, and I was really kind of on the fence about where to go. And I remember going to the open night for the sixth form that I studied at, and just being completely blown away. And I was like, oh, I definitely want to be here. Like I just knew like immediately from speaking to the English teachers there. I remember I spoke to the psychology teacher as well, and obviously it was a subject I'd not done before, so it was really nice to get an idea of what the course would actually be like. So I found that really useful. I think that was a great way for me to kind of confirm to myself which one I wanted to go to. And then similar to you, with like uni open events. So obviously I moved essentially as far away in England as I could go, much to my parents' disappointment. And my dad drove me to Newcastle to do a 12-hour round trip in the car
I
just
love that
so I
that's the
could
dad's job, by the way. Everyone's dad gets that job.
he fully got lumped with that. But yeah, so I mean, we came 12 hours just to get up to Newcastle to have a bit of a tour. I think we were in the city for probably about an hour maximum. But I found it really worthwhile still, in terms of when I got there, I knew that's where I wanted to be. And obviously I was not wrong. I love it up here. So I think that was really good. But I do think, had virtual events been around when I was looking at studying in Newcastle, I think my parents would have been very, very pleased about that. It would have saved us a big trip. So I think they are really worthwhile. I think it's just about kind of knowing what the differences are between a face-to-face event and something that is virtual, and maybe the benefits of both of them. But I think in terms of,
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important.
oh, that's fine, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think at the minute as well, it's important to know that it's probably not either or. Like, it's an even better position, because you've got both, haven't you? I think obviously the virtual event is, you know, all that everyone can offer right now, but that doesn't mean close at the time that you can't go to a physical one. You know, that might be an option later on. So actually, you probably get the best of both.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And I think as well, everyone is trying to do as much as they possibly can at the minute. So I think for kind of year 11s and year 13s as well, who are looking at uni, I think a lot of like further education and higher education providers are being really creative with what they can do and what they can offer. And I think that can only be a good thing, really. So I think it's about, like you said, kind of seeing it as best of both worlds, doing the virtual stuff, and then hopefully being able to kind of have some in-person interaction as well. But yeah, I think that's a really good way, positive way to look at it.
Yeah.
If we maybe think then about some kind of top tips, and maybe from our own experience, our own experiences of being students or kind of working at the uni, now working at the college, what are some things that you think would be kind of beneficial for students to do to prepare for an event?
I think for me, the first one would be like do a bit of research, make a list of any events that you can see coming up. Obviously, really easy just to Google it. It'll bring up, you know, if you know there's a particular college say you're interested in, or if it's apprenticeships, events that's coming up for all those things. And I think make a list of ones that are happening. If you use a diary or a calendar on email or anything, pop them in there just so you don't forget. But make a list of who you actually want to speak to at those events as well. I think it's always good to go prepared. I know even just from the experience of working careers fairs and things, you see people wandering around just lost, don't you? Because I think there's so many people there, especially if it's a big event with lots of different organisations. You kind of get there and you're a bit like, oh, like struck for a few, you know, maybe it's even half an hour, just wandering around like, who will I talk to? Who's got the best freebies? And before you know it, the event's over, and you haven't spoke to anyone. So my advice would be to make a list of who you actually want to speak to. Go and find them straight away. So in your virtual event, obviously it depends how it's set up, but know who you want to speak to in terms of either organisations, or if it's an open night, what subjects you want to speak to. Speak to all those first, so you know you've got your questions answered about the ones that you are interested in. And then you might have a bit of time left at the end, and you can go and, you know, explore who else is at the event, and, you know, something else might catch your eye, but at least you know you've spoke to the key ones that you want first of all. So I think that would probably be my first top tip. Next one in terms of virtual events is just to make sure you register for them. So when you see obviously the advert for it, just click on the link and it'll just ask for you like your contact details. Might even ask what subjects you're interested in, or the organisation. Pop them in there, and they'll send you through like a confirmation email. That'll just keep you up to date with anything before the event, but it'll also send you through the link to access the event on the day. It's best obviously to just check that you've got access to it. You know, it might be an app, it might be a completely different platform you've not used before. So just check that you can actually get onto it. It all works as normal. Otherwise, obviously, you might need to contact them, or you might need to download something. Do it all in advance, because as I say, once the event starts, you don't want to realize that you can't actually get in, and then the whole event's passed and you haven't even accessed it. All right, so pre-register, get your link and your login, try it out, and then you should be ready to go on the day. And then I think last one would just be, again, preparing things like questions. So you might know exactly what college you want to speak to, but what are you actually going to say when that chat opens? So what do you actually want to find out? So yeah, I would say make a list of a few questions. There might be about the course content. It might be things like what have students progressed on to afterwards. If you're interested in, say, university, you might ask about UCAS like points, and what courses it would give you sort of access to following that, or it could be anything outside of your course as well. So anything extra you want to get involved in, if you've got a sport, if you want to get involved in volunteering or placement. So just make a list of a few questions. I'd say the conversation will probably take you in that direction anyway, but it's nothing worse than starting to speak to someone and not actually just having a mind blank.
Yeah.
So yeah, preparation is key, I think.
Fab.
What about you?
Yeah, I think I agree, completely agree with all of that. I think just kind of coming from the point of being prepared in terms of how it's actually going to work on the day. So obviously in registering, I imagine they'll send you out all of the information you'll need. But I think knowing how to kind of access the particular platform, so it'll depend completely on which institution it is, or if it's kind of an event where lots of different employers are going to be there, or lots of different institutions, kind of thinking about how that's going to work on the day. So it might be that it's kind of virtual stalls. It might be like as advanced as that, or it might be using live chat and being able to chat to different people, but just feeling comfortable. So when you log on, like you were saying, you're not then just thinking, what am I going to do now? How does this even work? What is going to happen? It also might be that they're running talks about different things, and kind of having the timings of them written down as well. And again, how you are physically going to sit and watch that, how you're going to navigate the website or the platform or whatever, so you can do that. So I think that's really important. I would also say going on a virtual tour. So I'm pretty sure every kind of institution has now created some type of virtual tour. It's often available on their website, but it might be that they kind of make that link available on open evenings or something like that. But for me, it was really crucial for me to see the place that I was going to be studying. And I think being able to see that online is equally as useful. So I think definitely take the opportunity to do a virtual tour, see kind of what your department might look like, where you might actually be studying and socializing, and kind of taking part in extracurricular activities. But I think that's a really good way to do it as well, kind of having a look at a virtual tour. And then I think my last one, to bring up COVID, would be to not bring up COVID, really. So I think being proactive and being forward thinking and thinking, okay, how might coronavirus impact my studies, is a really kind of logical way to think. And I don't blame students for thinking in that way. But what I would say is, when you're preparing your questions and thinking about the things you're going to ask, try to kind of maximize that time that you've got in the best way possible. So I think if you are then kind of getting a little bit bogged down with COVID and what might happen with COVID and how your studies might be affected and things like that, a lot of tutors and teaching staff might not know the answers. So then you're not really gaining anything, and they're then probably thinking, oh no, I wasn't actually able to answer their question. So I think it's all well and good kind of thinking and being prepared for the future, and but hopefully by the time that people are starting courses in September, we will be in a very different kind of situation to what we're in now. So that would be my best advice, to ask if you're really concerned about something maybe in particular relating to COVID, but don't kind of get yourself too bogged down about that. Try and think about the positives of being at a virtual event, and like you've mentioned, kind of all of those other questions you can ask that are going to be really enriching for you and you're going to get something out of.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think they would kind of be my kind of top tips, I think, for getting the most out of a virtual event. So I know that we do this every week. It's becoming a bit of a feature. But thinking about the most Googled questions that people have asked in relation to virtual events. So the first one is, will virtual events replace real ones? So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
That's a good one, that. And I think it's something that I know we've even sort of talked about, because there is actually so many benefits to virtual events as well. And I don't think they'll personally replace them, but I do think it'll be something that, you know, it might continue to run alongside of. So, you know, not everyone can make it the first open night of every month, because you might have something on, you know, you might already have you know, things you already do on a Tuesday night, or
Yeah.
your parents do on a Tuesday night that can't take you along. Or if the weather's awful and you just don't want to leave the house because it's tipping down with rain, I think it's good to have that option. So if anything does happen, you know, you can still access the open night or the virtual event from the comfort of your own home. So yeah, I think everyone's seeing the positives in it. So although I don't think it'll completely replace them, because there's nothing the same as actually going in and seeing facilities and seeing where you'll study, I do think hopefully they'll still continue alongside of, for anyone who can't make them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's a bit of a controversial one, isn't it? And I think we spoke about it, I think, in the first podcast, but a lot of things are kind of moving to virtual delivery, and there are lots of questions around, will they kind of ever go back to kind of pre-COVID and kind of face-to-face interactions and things like that. And I think you will never be able to fully replace kind of virtual interactions and the benefits of seeing somebody face-to-face and meeting someone face-to-face. But I do definitely agree that virtual events, especially in education, I think they kind of complement kind of face-to-face events. So just using my example from before, but obviously I did 12 hours in a car in a day to be able to come up and see Newcastle Uni. But how great would it have been if at that time I could have just attended this virtual open day, which would have kind of allowed me to see all of the same things that I would see at the in-person one, but just kind of delivered online. And I wonder if, like you said, if lots of institutions will carry on doing that kind of going forward. But yeah, there are definitely benefits to both, I think.
And I think for, like, when you were saying as well, obviously it was only you and your dad that went because it was such a long journey. But actually, if it's virtual, your mum and, I don't know, maybe your sister look at home, like, show your granny if you want. Like, everyone can have a little look. So
yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. It's just more accessible, isn't it? I think.
Definitely.
And yeah, I mean, I would like to think that these things will continue, or even if they kind of continue in a more bespoke way, so delivering them kind of as and when people need. But I just do hope that it's now obvious that it can be done, and it can be done well. And obviously there are so many different platforms they can be delivered on now. So I think it would be great if that kind of continues. So then the kind of second and last Google question for this week is, what should I wear to a virtual event?
That's a good one as well.
I like to throw a bit of a curveball in, but I thought that was a good one. So what are your opinions on this?
I think, to be honest, like, it's the same as anything online, isn't it? You know, if you were going to a virtual event in person, you would want to look, you know, smart casual, I would say. So you don't want to turn up in like a suit or something, but you want to look presentable. And I'd probably say, you know, stick to those sort of smart casual dress code when you're doing online as well. I mean, realistically, they're only going to see your top half. nobody would know if we were wearing pajama bottoms right now. So
Okay.
think about think about what you're wearing on the top. Make yourself look, presentable. But obviously don't get too sort of stressed out about it. I have just realised that I think this top actually blends into my wall. So make sure they can actually see you on the camera. Yeah, I would say smart casual as you would attending in person. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I agree. I think obviously one of the huge benefits of kind of virtual events are that a lot of the time you probably won't even have to have your camera on anyway. You'll probably be able to just kind of log on, go around to the stalls, and no one will even have to see you. But if it is the case that they do, I think a huge benefit is that you can be comfortable, and you can kind of attend them from wherever you are. So it might be your sofa, it might be your bed, it might be the dining
Mhm.
table. But you kind of like we were saying, nobody would know if we were wearing pajama bottoms right now. So I think that is just a huge benefit, and kind of use that. So make sure you're comfortable, but yeah, smart on the top half, but that could be a nice jumper. Nobody's gonna kind of revoke your place at college because they saw you wearing a hoodie on your virtual event. Do you know what I mean? So I think just being comfortable is probably the way to go. But
Yeah, definitely. And I think with that, maybe it's just be prepared in case you are speaking to someone and they say, "Oh,
oh,
we've got a video chat." Like turn your camera on. Just make sure you're in it in something presentable where you can't turn your camera on.
that has happened to me way too many times when I've gone onto a call and I've thought, it's fine, nobody will have their cameras on. And then I go on and everyone does. And they're like,
Everyone
we're
has.
all going to have our cameras on in this meeting. And oh, God, yeah. And I've looked absolutely hideous. So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe be prepared for the kind of eventuality that they are going to say. So we're all going to have our cameras on. But yeah, I imagine the likelihood is they won't though. So don't get
Yeah.
yourselves too stressed about, don't go and like order a whole new outfit on ASOS unless you enter our competition and you win £10 ASOS voucher, and that could go towards the new virtual event outfit. But yeah, so that was a nice little segue into our competition for this week. So this week then, we are obviously going to do a bit of a plug for our virtual advice and enrolment night, which is on the 2nd of Feb. So if you go onto our website, you'll be able to kind of see all of the key information there about kind of registering. We will also provide the links as well, so they should kind of come alongside this video. If it's on your learning platform, and there should be a kind of link to register somewhere as well. But our kind of competition for this week then is registering for our open night. So what we would like you to do is kind of do it in the usual way. So fill in the Microsoft form once you have registered, just kind of letting us know that you've registered on our website and you'll be coming to our open evening. And then we will verify that you have done that. We don't have any cheaters. And then we will pick a winner and announce them kind of within the next week. And that person can choose a £10 voucher of their choice. So we will get in touch with them then. But yeah, so I think that is it for this week.
I think that's all. I personally love reading all the competition entries, so do keep them coming in. It's like the highlight of a week, so keep bringing them in, and hopefully we'll speak to you at the advice and enrolment night.
Yeah, fab. All right then, speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.